Let me come to Murtala on this beat.
Echo, I am scandalized. Ben, I am scandalized. To be very honest, that I thought it was just ordinary Ghanaians who were hoodwinked into believing the pact of lies that the president peddled in the August House of Parliament. I am surprised that my lecturer, my professor himself, seems to be agreeing with some of the lies the president.
In terms of what?
I would detail them if you just give me a minute. The State of the Nation's address is in the 1992 Constitution, Article 67, that the president is enjoined to tell the people of this country the state of this country at the beginning of every parliamentary session and at the end of the session. And the reason why the State of the Nation's address is important, or the reasons why the president must address the people of this country, is to help the citizens plan in terms of their finances, plan in terms of their security, and plan in terms of everything. So you must tell them the true state of the country, regardless how bitter that state is. I heard my brother say that the president was being candid. Perhaps, maybe because I attended a Saito school, there is a different meaning of what constitutes a candid statement. The president was outrightly lying to the people of this country. And I'll give you one example. I'll tell you. The president says that, don't blame me, I came and met debts. Isn't this a lie?
That's a fact.
Hold on. You came and met a debt of 120 billion from independence. President Mohammed came and met a debt of a little over 80 billion. And by the time, hold please, we can talk about, I listen to you.
Please go ahead.
President Mohammed came and met a debt of a little over 80 billion. And by the time President Mohammed left office, he left a debt of a little over 120 billion.
So about 40 billion.
40 billion. You took it now, we are getting to 600 billion. And you have the audacity without any shame to look into our faces and tell us that the problem I have is because I came and met debts. You have borrowed close to 500 billion.
About 480 billion.
I'm saying that almost 500 billion. 480 is not close to 500 billion. You have borrowed close to 500 billion.
And what did he say?
And there is, let me finish. I listen to you.
He even showed us.
I listen to you, please.
He gave you.
I think just to clarify, the sums of money that are being mentioned are in Ghana cedis, not dollars. They are in Ghana cedis.
Will you tell him? I listened to him.
I'm listening to you.
Please,
when he was mentioned,
please don't echo him. So friendly advice, Murtala. He can retaliate.
When he was mentioning the figures, you didn't interject to say that he's talking about cities.
Go ahead.
What is the interest in wanting to let people know? Have I said it's dollars?
There's a point that
when
was
he
made
mentioned
for
the figure, when he mentioned the figures, you didn't interject to say that he's referring to cities.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
So I am saying that the president, the 40 billion President Mohammed borrowed was not in dollars, cities.
No, I'm saying that all of what you are mentioning, both NDC and MPP, are in cities.
President Mohammed borrowed 40 billion. You borrowed close to 500 billion. Then you look into our faces and tell us, don't blame me because I made. Is this not a lie coming from a president? 2, the president also said that there is nothing wrong with how COVID funds were managed. That there wasn't anything untoward as far as the management of COVID funds was. When the Auditor General has indicated palpably how monies of COVID funds were misappropriated, isn't that another lie? Without any shame, you have a president who sees nothing wrong with lying. Kids were watching. And those kids, when they know the facts and the president comes to lie to them, you think that they would have any respect for that office of the president? You think they would? Again, let's look at the facts. The president, and I'm going to unpack the facts so that we know the facts from the not half-baked truth, absolute lies. You said that 1D1F is creating a lot of jobs. Which jobs? President Mohammed handed over to this government unemployment of 6.8%. Now, 6.8%.
Youth unemployment or?
I say unemployment, not even youth. Total unemployment. I'll come and give you the breakdown. President Mohammed handed over to this government. You can check at the ILO website and check at the Statistical Service. In 2016, President Mohammed handed over to you unemployment of 6.8%. You have taken it to 17.4%. Go and read the census report by the Statistical Service. Unemployment was 17.4%.
See, that is an effect of the doomsaw.
Can I finish?
It's true.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Did we have doomsaw in?
We had doomsaw from 2012 to 2016, and the effect of all those companies that collapsed is what you are saying.
What a hypocrisy.
Why?
When you told him about the IMF went in for,
yes,
and the fact that IMF, can I finish? I mean, don't do this. And I expect
I am listening to you.
No.
Please go ahead.
No, I expect you to be telling him. I expect you to be telling him. I listen to him.
Let him make his point.
Is it deliberate?
He didn't interfere when you were making.
I expect you to be telling him.
He didn't interfere.
I'm not interfering.
What is this?
Let him.
You don't have any respect for
Let him land.
I'm saying the president, you took unemployment in this country at 6.8% to 17.4%, and you tell me that you have created jobs. 1D, 1F is supposed to grow the economy. And once the economy grows and expands, jobs will be created. The 1D, 1F is not serving the purpose for which it was instituted in the first place, because it is fraught with corruption and incoherent policy implementation. And that is the reason why unemployment is rising. You don't need economists, you don't need prof to tell you that when you industrialize, the economy grows, and once it grows, jobs are created. So if you claim that 1D, 1F is industrializing and creating jobs, and expanding the economy, and jobs are not created, it means that particular intervention, there is a problem with it.
Not true. See, if I can help you.
Don't help me.
Let him land. Just note the points down. Just note the points down, and you can react. Go ahead.
You see,
go ahead.
He wants to go to the court. I'm just saying that the facts are there. The Statistical Service, the head there was appointed by this government.
No problem.
Unemployment, you took it from 6.8% to 17.4%. Now he's talking about
you have to land on some of these, because we also have to bring in Prof.
Except that you don't want me to talk, because he spoke for almost 15 minutes. He spoke for almost 15 minutes. I never interjected. Then I won't talk. He spoke for almost 15 minutes. I never interjected.
In all fairness, we should also allow Professor Aka to have some time. I'm not saying.
Then allow him to.
I'm not saying.
No, allow him to speak. You don't want me to. He spoke for 15 minutes.
I'm saying
I never interjected.
Streamline.
Then you don't want me to be on your. You
go ahead.
Tell me that when he was speaking, you never interjected. I never interjected for almost 15 minutes. I speak, and then you tell me.
And Eve, you've not been fair.
You are not fair too.
I really, it's creating problems.
I listen to him.
Let him go ahead.
You are interjecting,
so that we can also allow.
I should know.
Go ahead.
So I'm saying that. When he talk of the fact that they've been able to produce more, why? In this country, we were spending a little over $500 million importing rice and poultry products into this country. We are today spending over $2 billion. Then this president will tell me that he's doing better. You took inflation from 15% to over 54%. Debt to GDP a little over 60% to 104%. Then you tell me that you are doing well. If this was not part of lies, then someone should tell me. And the president owes us a duty and a responsibility to tell us the true state of this country. Dollar to the cedi under the NDC in 2016 was 3.4. And then they say, oh, it was 3.7. Let's even say 4.0. Today it's 13 cedis. Then this president will look into our faces and lie to us in the legendary fashion he did. In any case, security. Go and read the first quarter report of the Ghana Police Service in 2018, that we registered the highest armed robbery ever in the history of this country. And every year, read their report and juxtapose them with the reports under the NDC. Security is in a state of decay.
But that's interesting, because we have so many security-related, National Security Ministry. I mean,
that is the point I'm even making.
We have
everything.
Interior.
I mean, they are just moribund in terms of what they have been able to deliver. Now, Ashama, I mean, it's ridiculous that you have a military officer who was barbarously murdered, which we all condemned, and expect that state institutions such as the police should be given the opportunity to investigate, to get those perpetrators. And as a matter of fact, the police had commenced investigation into the barbarous murder of that military officer. Out of nowhere, the president himself sanctioned military men to go and molest people in Ashama. Except that someone is going to tell me that the military attaché, the high command of the military, worked independent of the control of the political authority. The military attaché, the high command, they work under the supervision and the authority of the Minister for Defense. And the Minister for Defense is answerable to the President. In fact, the President is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. That you have military officers who went there, molest people without any reason. And in fact, when I saw the videos, it was a reminiscence of what happens in Gaza Strip, or perhaps what is happening in Ukraine. Helicopters everywhere. When the police had commenced investigation, then you think that we should praise him, human rights. Human rights what? And I thought that the president would have found some little space in his heart to show empathy and sympathy to the people who were unjustifiably molested. But you know why? There aren't any spaces left again in the heart of the president for sympathy and empathy. If there were spaces left, when unarmed citizens who went to participate in an elections by the constitution, those people were barbarously murdered. The president still hasn't found a space in his heart to even express sympathy to the families. Now you come there and pretentiously telling us that Women's Day, those who were murdered, their wives are widows today. Their children are orphans. The education of their children are truncated. And this president didn't have any shame to stand there telling us Women's Day. You have made some women widows. Do you know how those women are feeling? Do you know how they feel when they watch the president peddling those falsehoods? And frankly speaking, if you talk about sympathy, the president doesn't have any. Absolutely none. How could this escape the president? And then you have a deputy minister for defense.
For me, just to make a point, I found it shocking, Eve, and everyone watching, that that particular point was not made. I found it egregiously shocking that no mention was made of that. But anyway, I'm not Mr. President. Please wrap up your points.
How could the deputy minister for defense granted an interview earlier and said that it was sanctioned by the military high command? That was what the deputy minister for defense is. So there is no one who can tell me that the president didn't sanction it. If the president never sanctioned what happened in Ashama, then God save this country. It means that the military can do anything at any point in time. It means that they are out of control. It means that the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, has no control whatsoever of any security agencies in this country. But you see, the list said about this economy, the parliament, the president was standing there, telling us that he has upheld and touting the credentials of parliamentary democracy. You authorized armed military men who invaded parliament, but for our resilience to truncate a democratic process, the president never condemned that action of the military men who were authorized to come into chamber. That was what happened. Then you stand there and then you tell us the COVID fans, look, when you ask him about COVID, he say, oh, the problem we have is not the cause of anybody. None of our neighbors borrowed $3 billion from the IMF in the name of COVID. None of our neighbors borrowed over 100 million euro from European Union. None of our neighbors borrowed hundreds of million dollars from the World Bank. In fact, Burkina borrowed just $20 million in the name of COVID. Now, if we want to tout ourselves as to the successes of COVID, the best successes of COVID is to prevent lives being lost. Lives were lost in Ghana, then lives were lost in our neighboring countries. Yet this president repeatedly would tell us that we did so well. Look, the WHO praising how we handle COVID. Go and read. They praise Burkina same, they praise Togo same, they praise Nigeria same. So Ghana was basically an isolation. Right. But we have borrowed more than all of them. Let me conclude just last question. And I want to ask you. We were asked that we were given free water and free electricity. And then they now introduce a new tax for the purposes of the free electricity and the free water. Now, have you tried to find out how much the state has generated so far in the name of
questions?
I filed this question in Parliament. The Minister for Finance refused to answer these questions and have been making demands. Refile these questions. Now, isn't that extorting the people? That when you institute a tax regime for the purpose of a particular thing, now we need to know how much you have generated so far. How much did you spend in providing the free electricity and free water?
Point made.
If you have read that, then you don't need to continue.
And it's a question we've also paid.
I want you people to take this thing up.
It's not something we are to take up. It's something we have done in the past. We've not got any responses, just as you have not got any responses. Let me bring...